work it, make it, do it, make sense.
We're at Devoxx UK in the heart of London, and I'm here with Jack, who's given a talk about performance tuning and what you learned. So 10,000 performance tuning tips.
Yes.
10,000 tips.
10,000.
Just to clarify.
Yes.
And you had time to read all of those.
I've time to read a lot more than those. So
Wow.
what I do is I have a monthly newsletter and I read a lot of articles. I read probably 30 articles a month.
Wow.
And of those, only about 5 or 6 are the ones that I select for the newsletter, and I extract the tips just from those. So yes, it's a lot more than that. But it's it's the highlight tips, and there's some repetition, obviously, because different people say things slightly differently, but it's pretty much the same thing. But I would say there's a good 2,000-3,000 different value tips in there.
Wow. So that's a lot to when you're faced with a performance problem. That's a lot to take in. 2,000 tips.
So it's the wrong approach. So what I learned, which is what the talk is about, is that it's not the solution that you want to focus on. It's the steps and analyzing the problem. And honestly, once you've figured out what the problem is, it's a search away from the solution.
No,
so you don't need to know
that's
all
brilliant.
the tips.
Yeah, that is brilliant. So you teach people to catalogue, as it were, their problem, or
Yes, so
classify.
Exactly.
Classify.
Yes. So I first get them to classify the problems, and then I explain all the tools that they can use to identify exactly what the cause is. And the rest of it is it's a modern programmer, a modern developer. One of their core tools is to search the internet for somebody else has solved this, and not everybody. Obviously there's some stuff that has never been done before, but 90% of what you've done, if it's a difficult issue, somebody else has had that, and somebody's talked about it. Maybe they don't give you the full solution because maybe they couldn't solve it quite right, but there's lots of information out there.
So how do you go about classifying a problem?
Okay, so what I explain is that you want to first of all understand what is achievable and what is not achievable, but what is achievable, reasonably achievable, and what is an outlier that it's going to be very expensive to achieve.
Yeah.
So that's fairly clear. I mean, we've got examples of Google, CERN, hedge funds, and I can explain. So I do in my talk. I explain those are the examples I gave where we're talking about very high concurrency or very low latency or huge amounts of data. Those take huge amounts of money and resources to solve.
Yeah.
So if you need to know where your reasonable boundary is, and I explain exactly where that is. I explain what's reasonably achievable with modern technology in a modern environment, where it's like your company is anywhere from 2 guys up to 20,000. That sort of range.
Yeah.
What you can achieve. So that tells you what's reasonable to achieve, and then the next step is, if you have a problem, knowing what the target is. So is your target within the reasonable achievement area, or is it outside?
So you need to make sure you have your metrics.
The metrics come next.
Oh right, okay, sorry,
Okay, so,
I've jumped ahead.
Yeah. So you need to know. I mean, if the target is I need to respond to this in 100 milliseconds, and it's taking 200 milliseconds, so there's the problem, and you need to know what the target is, because if it's 200 milliseconds and the target is 500 milliseconds, it's not a problem. So that's the target you need to know. You need to know what is it that I'm expected to achieve with my application. What is it that's reasonable to achieve with my application? As long as it's reasonable, and the expectation is there, then the next step is acquire the metrics. Yes, so that's what you want. And there's a very detailed flowchart from the Oracle guys, which I refer to in my application, and it's a huge flowchart. It's the size of this if you printed it out, so you could actually read it.
Yeah.
And it tells you exactly what to look for, which metrics to generate, all of that. That's one slide, right?
Okay. You don't expect people to read it though, right?
No. I just give them the reference for that one because that's not what my talk's about. My talk is about then what I do is I look at the most common problems that people have had over that people have explained that those are the problems. So there's been lots of surveys, what's your most common performance problem, memory problem, and I've accumulated all of those. So I have a list of all the top common problems, and I give you the tools and the techniques to find the cause of those problems for all the top 10-ish common problems. And then at the end of my talk, you're a guru, right? And you can do it. And then the next step is just searching for the solution. Once you found the problem, the solution is easier.
That sounds like a really good conference talk because you're presenting people with a framework.
Yes, and I'm really not looking at the outliers. So we have a lot of talks in a lot of our conferences which are focused on the outliers because that's really interesting to know how you manage to get 1 microsecond latency using a hardware, whatever it is, or you've flipped out the operating system and done thread affinity to your cores with your threads, and all that's really interesting.
Yeah.
But there's 100 companies worldwide that need those techniques,
yeah.
and there are more programmers who can do it than there are companies who need that. Yeah. That's more of a matching service. And most of the 10 million Java programmers need the techniques that I'm talking about, which is all the common problems. So I like to repeat that kind of tool set so that I'm addressing the problems that most people have, rather than the really interesting problems that everyone wants to hear about, but they can't actually use those techniques anyway.
Work it, make it, do it, makes us